Hi, welcome to the Schluter-Systems Tips and Tricks video series. I'm Andy Acker, Director of Education for North America.
And I'm Bryant Bouchard, Regional Manager of the Northeast.
You know, KERDI always requires a 2-inch overlap on all of its seams.
Yeah, and we get a lot of questions, Andy, about the buildup. And I gotta say, it's not because of the KERDI, it's usually because of the thin set behind the KERDI, and then the additional thin set that we put on the KERDI when we do an overlap. And we're gonna show a trick here to reduce that buildup.
And this is important with small format tile. You could use this any time, but with the small format tile, you're going to use a very small notch trowel, so you could actually, if you had a mosaic, you could detect that little bit of an overlap there because the bond coat is so thin. But as soon as we go to any tile that is not a small format, you're not going to be able to detect any of the buildup because the bond coat is going to more than take that up. So what's required here is to make certain we put the KERDI on and firmly embed it into the thin set. We never tell you to evacuate out excess thin set from underneath the KERDI. We just simply tell you to embed the KERDI into the bond coat, removing any air pockets or blisters or bubbles and knocking down the notches. That's simply what we're going to do. So you can actually do that without a lot of firm hand. It doesn't take a lot of pressure to get this embedded correctly. But what we're going to do on that 2-inch at the edge where we're going to get the overlap, there we are going to use a little bit more pressure and use the leading edge of the trowel instead of the trailing edge, and we can evacuate out just a little bit excess thin set as you see Bryant doing here. So we'll do that whenever we're going to have the 2-inch overlap. So at this end we'll do it, and then we'll do it over here on this end. I think the next sheet is going to be over here, Bryant, so we'll put that on. So again, trailing edge of the trowel to firmly embed the KERDI into the whole bond coat, but here on the edge you can see we can work out just a little bit. Not always necessary, but here's where it actually is going to benefit you. Now you can see the thin set's all nice and fresh and fairly loose. Consistency like we've always wanted you to have for both DITRA installation and KERDI installation. That allows the thin set to flow very easily. So now we're just going to use a half a sheet here to actually demonstrate this overlap technique, and you can see what Brian's doing. He's actually taking the thin set and just getting it out of the bucket and onto the wall and going to the 2-inch overlap. The KERDI does have printing on one side, and you can see here if you look closely at the KERDI here at the edge at the border, that actually shows the 2 inches. So you have a good idea of where that 2-inch overlap is here on this actual sheet.
So Andy, what I like to tell my customers is when they're putting pressure on the KERDI in the field, I call it medium pressure. They're not pressing too hard, and just to reiterate what you said earlier, you know, bear down when they get to that 2-inch overlap.
Right. It shouldn't take a lot of muscle, and you should not wear out your arm when you put up KERDI. With the thin set at the right consistency, and like you said, a medium pressure, it should lay out very easily, and that thin set should flow, all the ridges knocked down, and we work out any air pockets or bubbles or blisters. Now, Bryant's flipped the trowel around to the notch side to gauge the amount of thin set he's going to use, and that's going to be the proper notch. Okay, now while the thin set's nice and fresh, here's where we actually comb 2 inches over onto the original piece. We can set that right in place. Position it, get it about where you want it, smooth it out a little bit with your hands. And here's where you go in medium pressure, just working it in, making sure all the ridges are knocked down. With the gray thin set, Brian, it's actually easy to see through the KERDI a little bit. There's enough transparency here where you can actually see the notches where they're standing proud and where you've actually knocked them down.
Now I'm going to add the pressure here, Andy, to tighten up this overlap.
There you go. Okay, well we got our 2-inch overlap done here, and that actually looks nice and flush, Bryant.
Yeah, by doing this trick today, Andy, it really gives us a good chance that we could set any type of format of tile on this installation.
And the overlap would be undetected right there.
Nice and flat and even.
Okay, so thanks for joining us here. I hope this tip is helpful when you come across a KERDI job and you're using a small format tile.
Yeah, make sure you visit our website, schluter.com, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for videos like this.